The album continues with Phoenix, sometimes with the O and E combined because fancy, I guess? I don't know. Anyway, this track starts off with a simple repeating kick drum beat, with a tapping cymbal sound coming up at about 15 seconds and 8 bars in. For over a minute and 20 odd seconds, this is a pretty good build up in a song, at least for those who may actually have some kind of attention span as opposed to just skipping ahead straight to the main hook instead of letting the music take its time and be patient about it. Speaking of, the main hook itself is actually a tiny sample from the Elton John and Kiki D duet song Don't Go Breaking My Heart. Specifically, the part that goes, I've got your heart in my sights. They basically took that little 1 to 2 second short tidbit just at the end of the sights bit, cut it up an inch, transposed it down a few inches, and compressed and EQ'd quite much of it. You could still hear Kiki's emphasized S consonant sound in there. Some may joke or even go at the duo for taking samples out of anything for their own music, but the fact still stands that they were pretty sneaky and clever with it. That most people still had to look it up for themselves like I did, and that Daft Punk did so well at masking the sample through so much effects that such was so small and so short and altered enough that general listeners wouldn't recognize it at first within the first few hearings, or even suspect it was a sample at all. Not only that, but the bass of the track is also an even shorter cut of the exact same sample, looping in different pitches and heavily filtered in a way that we only hear the bass itself. That alone is mad brilliant genius. You really have to admire those two. As for the name, one may think it's named after the band that fellow former Darlin member Laurent Bronkowitz would form. However, that band didn't release their first album until 2000. Although the band Phoenix did form in around 1997, if research has me to believe, the exact same year as this album. But this too was released in January, so it's more likely that the band named themselves after this particular song by Laurent's former bandmates, but it may as well be a chance of coincidence and they all thought it sounded cool on their own. But anyways, like the legend of the Phoenix, this song ends with beginnings. We then followed up with Fresh, a short, simple, and definitely fitting name for such a song like this. Probably even one of my favourite songs of the album if I had to choose. It begins with the sound of ocean waves crashing and receding, before we then get a gorgeous guitar riff. This immediately gives off a feeling of comfort and clarity, and after 45 seconds in, we then get introduced to the main looping sample as it fades in, which altogether makes me feel ecstatic and uplifted. The ocean sounds and guitar riffs still seem to linger on to the end of the song and never really go away. In some ways it feels like I'm with Tomas and Guy Manuel wandering and relaxing in this vast endless beach, and we're hearing some disco-y club music playing nearby. The sample in question is from the song If You Leave Me Now by Chicago. You know, the one that goes, "Woo, no, baby, please don't go." Specifically, it's from the disco cover version by Viola Willis. It's more noticeable than the previous track if you manage to listen to them for context and comparison. This, along with said previous track Phoenix, kind of act as a sort of hint or kind of a hint and kind of build up to kind of a proto dress rehearsal to the style of sound and production we would eventually hear in the next album, Discovery. Not only sampling and looping tiny samples of generally disco songs of the late 70s and early 80s, but also on trying to capture and replicate the mood and aesthetic of that era of music. Of course, the Stardust song, The Music Sounds Better With You, as well as the Together song, Together, both of which also feature Tomas Mangolta, both act as a bridge between Homework and Discovery. The music video, of course, acts as a standalone sequel to Daft Punk, focusing on Charles again, now having become a film actor and filming a scene on a beach, of course, with a kind of touching monologue of his at the beginning. In fact, the director he talks to after they finish shooting the scene is played by Spike Jonze, the director of the Daft Punk video. So, points for continuity, I guess. I also really like how, in both videos, everyone just seems so nonchalant about there being a humanoid dog just walking around casually. So it makes me wonder if that's even a normal thing in this world, or maybe the possibility is that Charles is actually just a regular human and he just sees himself as the dog. Then again, this might as well share the same universe as that alien anime Smurf band, so either way wouldn't be too surprising, honestly. Anyways, while Fresh wasn't exactly a single per se, Daft Punk themselves apparently noticed how many people saw the Funk video as quite sad and depressing, so they went ahead and made this video, directing it themselves with one long shot and take, rather impressively, to just show the character of Charles in a much happier place, as well as to cheer up their fans. And rightfully so. Here, Charles is no longer restricted by his crutch or his broken boombox radio, and is now together with Beatrice. Hopefully, I assume the human theory of mine is correct and it's not bestiality, but hey, they're happy together. Part of me would have liked to see a short series about the two, a kind of slice of life kind of thing, with each episode set to a certain Daft Punk song. That aside, this song is a simple, sweet, and all-around beautiful. I recommend listening to this if ever you're on holiday, by the beach, or a swimming pool, or what, because this tune would most definitely refresh your mind a bit, even at least for a few minutes. Then we come to another well-known track of Homework, if not Daft Punk in general, the second single of the album, Around the World, topping the #1 spot on the dance charts in the UK, US, and Canada. And most people instantly think of the song whenever they think of Daft Punk, aside from One More Time and Defunct. Most of that is likely, of course, due to its catchy and familiar hook, an ascending and descending bass line, and vocoder-enhanced vocals, probably the first instance I could think of Daft Punk actually utilizing the vocoder, continuously singing the title about 144 times, I am not kidding, no less, all throughout. It's a classic case of less is more, and all the better for it. Some have said that the bass here is sampled from Good Times by Chic, and listening to both, I can honestly say it's not exactly the case here. It's more or less merely a sound alike, if anything else. It also reminds me a bit of Rapper's Delight by the Sugar Hill Gang, and Another One Bites the Dust by Queen. For obvious reasons, of course. Another thing to note is that while the radio edit is about 4 minutes long, the album version is 7 minutes long. At first, one may see that as going a bit too long, especially with such a simple and repetitive song like this, but honestly, I don't care here. Go for the album version. Longer is better in this case, in my opinion. There's, of course, the equally iconic music video of the single, directed by Michael Gondry, who would go on to direct Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Be Kind Rewind, and The Green Hornet. Well, anyways, this video too captures that funky disco visual aesthetic in which a range of odd, colourful characters dance rhythmically to the music, with some very good choreography, I might add. And apparently, each of the characters were meant to represent a certain element of the song itself. The tracksuit wearing prosthetic-headed athletes represent the steady bass. The swimsuit wearing ladies, or disco girls as Gondry put it, representing the poppy keyboards. The itchy skeletons, or rather regular people dressed as skeletons, since they couldn't really hire actual skeleton people. However, Daft Punk would eventually be able to get some for their Prime Time of Your Life video. They're representing the blippy guitars, the mummies in the center of the stage representing the thumping drum machine, the androids, complete with motorbike helmets and everything, represent the robotic voice, and the set itself represents a vinyl record. And there's honestly not much left to say about this song that no one else has already. It's just fantastic. Around the World is so catchy that it might as well be stuck in your head around the clock. After that is Rolling and Scratching, with apostrophes instead of G's because it's cute, I guess. The title itself may have a bit of a double meaning to it, not only referring to the turning or rolling of a record on a turntable and the act of scratching a record like in a hip-hop song, but also the two little labels that Thomas had established at the time, roller and scratcher, both literally mean rolled and scratched in French. This is definitely a house ravey club song, without any shadow of doubt, with its extra thick beat, its 7.5 minute runtime length, so almost as long as actual songs being played at a rave, and its odd abnormal bass, produced via the Roland Juno 106 and Boss MT2 distortion pedal, in order to replicate that little annoying buzzing sound you hear if you tried plugging in or unplugging like a speaker or turntable or any kind of sound producing equipment. Except here, they make it not annoying, and instead they make it awesome. Once again, brilliant, clever, and all-around genius. Mad genius, I might add. It's like if Sega Saturn or PlayStation 1 music got high on melted vinyl, as well as that liquid you find in those little glow sticks, and just started dancing out like mad. At first it may sound a bit too raw and gritty for some listeners who are more used to their lighter songs like One More Time and Get Lucky and Lose Yourself to Dance. But when you get used to it, you'd likely enjoy it just as well. And who knows, maybe you'll be rolling around scratching yourself while listening to this. However, at this point, I have already no doubt, and wouldn't be surprised, that same way Homework is longer than Discovery, this review in total is going to be a touch longer than my review of Discovery.